Well, welcome back to See Hear Love. And people say that you save the best for last. And I think that's really true with my guest today on our final series show of Melinda Gets to Know Her Colleagues. I hope you've been tracking with us. We have gone and chatted with Crossroads Media CEO Kevin Shepard, Misha and Christina on Next Generation, Millennial issues and fun. I talked with Mark Masry, Maggie John, Cheryl Weber, and now today we end the series with the incredible, beautiful Lara Watson. Welcome, Lara, to the show.
Thank you, Melinda. It is such an honor and a privilege to be here. I am so thankful, and I'm glad I get to be the grand finale. You're the grand finale in my life. So.
Woo! Amazing. Well, for some
Awesome.
of you who are listening and watching, you don't know Lara. I don't know why you don't know her, but if you don't, she is the senior executive producer and co-host of 100 Huntley Street. She is an experienced journalist, producer, host, content creator, screenwriter, playwright, actor, wife to Jeff, mom to Jake and Ben, and so much more. And so, Lara, I know that you're going to be sharing a lot about your life with us, but incredible. You have done a lot in your life.
Well, I mean, it just sort of rolled out in those different ways, and I would fall into things and just listen to God's promptings and just was willing to try different things. Even like for example, in my teenage years, I was doing acting, and this is a choice I made before I started following Jesus when I was 17. And so here we, at about 15, start acting, 17, meet Jesus. My whole heart and life has changed. But continue on acting a bit, looking for things that are positive and inspirational, not quite finding that. Then I go to Tyndale, and I'm giving you one snippet of how, life rolls out.
Mm-hmm.
And I join an acting troupe there, and they need writers. And I start writing the plays and the monologues, and the teachers, are taking note and saying, the writing's great. Like, can you write another one? Can you write another one? And so we start touring with them across Ontario. But lo and behold, I start not really wanting to act anymore because I start to experience a lot of social anxiety at that stage in my life. So I start putting my friends up on the stage, and I just keep writing. And that's just one example of how God, it's amazing. It starts as one thing, and then he takes you where you don't think you're going to end up.
100%. I would say that's for my life too. And I think what I love, Laura, even just in that snippet, I had no idea, is that I think what I really loved about doing this series, Melinda Gets to Know Her Colleagues, is that you can work with somebody, you can see them in the hallway, you can see them in the studio, in the green room, in the makeup room, in the women's washroom, and know a part of your colleague, but you don't know them all. And I think that's been really rich for me the past number of weeks. And I think even now, we're going to get to know each other even better. And I think that's the gift of this sort of set moment to kind of talk face to face about you and about, what God has been doing in and through your life. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get to know you more and for our listeners and viewers, for them to kind of get to know you beyond the TV screen, the podcast mic, the YouTube clips, the social media, sound bites. I think it's going to be really great for them to know you. And on
Um,
that note, the segue
yeah.
now is for every show, I always do a gush fest about each guest. I think it's awkward. I'm not gonna lie. Every time I do this, everybody sat there and went, this is awkward, Mel." Everyone's like, "Oh, how do we do this?" But I really feel that we need to do this more. And so I thought about you last night, and I have a couple points of what I really love about you. What in the interactions that we've had, this is what I have observed about you, Lara. So this is your time to receive my gush fest of you. So the first thing I would say, Lara, is that really I was thinking about of all the people I know, you're probably the most genuine person that I know, where who you see on TV is who you are in real life. Like when the show is over, you're still Lara. You are still oozing Jesus and the passion and the curiosity, and just sort of this openness for people. And I really, really have been inspired about just this genuine way that you live your life. You are who you are. There's no apologies. There's no excuses. this is who I am, Lara Watson. And I think that's really refreshing for a time and culture and place where people are always fronting and being somebody who they're not necessarily who they truly are. And so I've really appreciated just your genuineness in how you live out your life. The second
Oh,
thing
that's
I just love about you
a good
is
time.
that's okay, go for it.
That was a gift to my heart. Thank you.
You're welcome. I think the second thing is, oh, no, I'm getting emotional, is that you really love Jesus. There are a lot of people who say they love him, but I have seen in the way you speak of him, of why you follow him and how you love others, that you really want the best for others, which is really about Jesus. And I just love how you really love him. It's a true relationship. And I know we're going to get into more details about how you got there with him, but it's really beautiful and refreshing, Lara, to see this really beautiful, intimate relationship that you have with Jesus and that you speak of him in such a way of honor, but of closeness. And that's beautiful. So that's the second thing I love about you. The third thing I love is how you love your family. You talk about your boys and Jeff and the things you do, and it's a priority for you. And I know we'll talk more too about the challenge with priority of being a career woman and a mom, but there is that part that your desire is to make them a priority, that your desire is to be a mom. And I've seen that in your posts on social and how you talk about them, and you're running off to pick them up and do things. And so I just think that's really, really beautiful. And then finally, you are a resilient woman. You have been courageous when you had to be, when life wasn't easy, when you didn't know where God was taking you. And so your resiliency, perseverance, and courage are beautiful traits of you. And so I've seen that. I don't know you fully, but I have sensed in the little interactions and how you've spoken on 100 Huntley Street, just your perseverance and commitment to hold tight to God through your life. So those are my 4 points. That's my gush fest for you. I just wanted to say that to you before we start, to just say that's what I really appreciate about you as a person, not just as a colleague, but as a person, as a sister, and as a woman in the work that we do. There you are.
Melinda, those words mean so much to me, and so many things. It's interesting that you mentioned about what you take note of in who I am, or things I pray about, and so it's like every little point that you've said, it's like I never want to not be the same person that people see, on the television. Like, and I pray these things, like, God,
Mm.
let me be the same person. Let me be willing to say the same thing in real life. And then the other layers of, am I putting my family first enough? Like, literally, it's like you heard my prayers and every wonderful word of encouragement you just gave me. And so it's a gift to me. The closeness with Jesus is like utter dependency on him, and we can get into
Yeah. That's true.
it's like, I need him. But that's such a blessing, and you filled my bucket for a year, like they said in kindergarten. You just filled my bucket,
I'm so glad.
and
I'm so glad. And I think, it's one thing, Laura, where I think just we need to do that more. It's funny, like people, I think we do it, or we're not as intentional doing it and spending the time to actually say, hey, listen, Laura, you can't go anywhere because we have an interview and you have to look at me, which sometimes is really awkward and weird. But I think it's something that I'm trying to do in my own life, to be a little bit more like, no, I want to let you know what I've observed of you, see of you, what I'm encouraged by you. Because we get a lot of the negative, that in media, all the stuff we're not doing right, or what we're not wearing, or our lipstick, or whatever. And I think it's time we kind of flip the tables and share what we like about each other. So
so do I. Well, now do I get to
I
gush
guess you
fest on
can. I know. It's funny. I just said this to you. I'm like, I guess you can. Yes, I will receive that. I need that today,
you?
actually.
Good. Okay. So there are a lot of things I love about you, Melinda. I think, um, and I'm going to go through each one. So first of all, the way you light up a room when you walk into it. The other day, I was walking out of a room here at work, and you were walking in, and you literally brought a joy and a light to that room that filled people up. Like, in a way where, you say to you'd say about someone, well, it's charisma. And then for me, I'm like, no, that's God's spirit. Like, this woman is walking in God's spirit. There's a boldness to her, and there's a joy that she brings into the room. And it changes the atmosphere. You change the atmosphere of a room.
Mm.
And I think that is what has struck me about you multiple times. Number
Wow.
two is the way you passionately love your friends. The way that, like, the sheer love on your face when you're with your friends. Even when I see like posts, I can see it. Even when I've had lunch with you, we haven't gotten to know each other as much as we want to
Mm.
probably, but in the times when I've watched you interact with friends that you're close to, I see the love, I see the presence. You're so present. And that commitment as a friend is so amazing. I know I walked away from you thinking, I want to be a friend like that. And that's really interesting. I want to be a girlfriend who's present like she is.
Mm.
So that's a big one.
That
It's
is.
a big one. And then, I also think this is interesting too. So I watch your show sometimes, of course, and listen to the podcasts. And then I watch your interactions with people. And I think people are braver after they've experienced you and when they're experiencing you.
Mm.
And that's something big, because we need to have bravery and courage in this world, in this life. It's a hard life. People seem to step into their own skin more when they're with you. They seem to step out of their skin more, like, so they're themselves more, and then they take the risks, and I watch it happen. And I think it's because you are a woman who's living true to your story. You're living true to who you are. You own things. You own your feelings. You own your worldviews. They're positive. They're for other people. Like, so you're putting yourself out there, and you're getting other people to do that in the process. They don't even know they're doing it, but
Hmm.
it's like, right? It's like contagious, and it's beautiful, because if we were all doing that, it would literally change the world. If we were all putting ourselves out there and stepping up to the plate and living courageously, in whatever way that looks like for each one of us, it would make a huge difference. So whether that's speaking our truth or just loving others with abandon, whichever.
Mm.
And
Wow.
I another thing that really has struck me with you is your tenacity, like your never give up attitude. Like, I can literally come to you. I can imagine I could come to you with any issue, and you're like, well, I know what to do. We're going to do this. And like, that's incredible. It's like, it's few and far between. Your tenacity is very strong. The fact that you started, you had a digital show, the journey of being an entrepreneur and then building it out to a broadcast show, to podcasts. Then, every incarnation, it's like, I'm going to write a book now. Like, it's amazing. And, and it helps all of us step forward, like as women, right? So it makes a difference, because we say, well, what could I do that if I put a little of my tenacity in there, if I stepped up a bit more? And, you're encouraging us to do that. I think another huge ones, like, I don't know if I'm at like 6, no, I'm at 5. I know how many I'm at. This is way more. So another one is the way you make space for everybody's story. So here you have built out this platform in your life, and you've given it away. And that's exactly what we're supposed to do. Like, you talked about my love of Jesus, you're right, an obsession, but like watching him, right? He gave voice to the voiceless. He lifted up those. He brought forward those who were on the margins or unseen. And every time, I'm watching See Her Love, and like, she's tackling that. She's having them share about this. She's bringing voices that are marginalized or oppressed forward. She's also just giving away platform, which people don't do, obviously, like, and especially in regular media, we're often trying to build out that platform for ourselves. I think sometimes in faith-based media, of course, that occurs too.
Mm.
But you're building it out actually to give voice to others, to show God's glory in their lives, and lift them up. And I think that's incredible. I think it's one of a kind. Sometimes I'm amazed. I'm like, she's doing it for the millennials. She's doing it for people of color. She's, like, every focus, right? Gender. She's got men up there now because they're being excluded. Like, so that inclusivity and, sharing your platform, building a platform actually to give away as much as,
Mm.
as much as you possibly can. Okay. Just one more, but I
Okay.
actually have like 4, but okay, one more.
Lara.
It's the way that you share a fresh vision of Jesus with people. So we talked about Jesus, and, like, I read the Bible so much and all these things, so many of us have, but you're giving a fresh vision of Jesus, that Jesus is the one who meets us on the journey. And you're saying it's okay to be on the journey. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to be here or there. He just loves you.
Mm.
So often I encounter Jesus differently when I watch your show. And that's interesting because it's like when I watched The Chosen, same thing. Suddenly I encountered Jesus differently
Mm.
than what I read in the Gospels, than what I was taught in school. So, you're presenting Jesus, your love of Jesus comes out in this authentic way of like, I'm going to show you the real Jesus. Here's another look at who he is. Here's
Mm.
another view, at the Savior of the world. Take a look at this. So those are some big things,
Wow.
Melinda.
Lara,
Yes.
that was honestly, that was really, I mean, there's no words. That really encouraged me. I think sometimes when you're in it, and you would know this, like you're just sort of doing it and you're kind of focused in and you don't know, like, is it making impact? Like, we know people write us, but like you're kind of just
Yeah.
in the work. And for you to just really see and affirm my heart, it's totally true. I mean, you said it, like, it is so much that this platform of See Your Love is not mine. God has given it to me to steward and to hold the space, but it never was like the Melinda show. Like for me, it was always like, that's why it was about see, hear, love, because I wanted to see people, hear people, and really love them with the love of Jesus. That's why that kind of came about. Um, and I really heard God say really clearly, like, this is my show. I'm going to, you know, give you the opportunity. You're going to work hard with it, but it's our story together, Melinda. And then I want to hear other people's stories of their story and my story together. And so, thank you for that. Thank you for knowing that, noticing that, because that's really big for me. I that's my heart. That's my heart, that it's that platform, and thank you for those things. I really that was beautiful. That was really beautiful, and I received that, and thank you so much, Laura, for that.
I hope you do. And you know what's funny among all of it? I just wanted to say I can't wait to see what the future holds. Because you
I
are such
know.
a great user.
I know somebody
And
already
I'm
asked me that. So what's going to happen for season 9? I'm like, I'm still just getting into season 8. They're like, "Oh, but
well,
what
we
do you
all have
have
a lot of
planned?" I know.
things.
I have some things planned, so we'll wait and see what that is. So,
Yeah,
thank you for that. Now I wanna go into our fun, fast questions because I think these are always
sure.
fun to kinda get to know you more quickly, and
Yeah.
so this is sort of like quick little things. I've asked all of your colleagues and my colleagues the same thing, so it's really fascinating how diverse they've answered these questions. So, are you ready? Our
I'm
fun,
ready.
fast
I
questions
hope
time
so.
with Lara Watson. Here we go. Aside from 100 Huntley Street and See Her Love, Lara, what is your favorite TV or streaming show, past or current, and why?
Okay, so I love. I'm such a like. I'm just a nerd. I don't know what to say. So I love like all the Star Wars spin-offs. and I'm
Okay.
and I don't go like deep like so I'm someone who's always like what's next in a way. That's not good too, is it? But anyways, Mandalorian was one I loved.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. And then I'm thinking of hold on, Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan? Yes.
Good,
Just watch it. It was
like so good. So I love sci-fi. I love like dreamy adventures. And then if I really want to laugh, and I just have so many answers for you. If I really want to laugh, then it would be like The Office.
Yes.
Because I'm always like, which one am I in The Office? Which one is
Which one are you in The Office?
oh, like we all want to be someone good like Pam, right? But
Yeah,
I'm
no.
somebody else.
Who would I be in The Office? That's actually funny. I've never thought about who we'd be.
Okay.
You would be
Oh. Oh, well, you need someone fashionable and trendy. See,
like Mindy, like
Mindy,
Mindy
yeah, but
Kaling.
like,
But she's
yeah,
a little
sharp,
bit
but
ditzy. I know. I don't know.
because Pam is kind of like she's not as spicy as I am either.
Yeah.
We're probably a mix of
Maybe
people.
you would be a mix. I could see you being a mix. Like you're kind of a mix of um I'm just trying to think. I'm gonna have to think about this because that's actually a really fun game of like who are you in the office and what mix are you? But I agree. That's
That's
actually funny. I love the office. Like when I need a laugh, Chris and I will turn on the office. But we love
yeah.
Star Wars. We actually were just having a talk about which is everybody's favorite. So Chris's Return of the Jedi is his favorite. But I love The Mandalorian. We loved Obi-Wan. We watched it
So
all.
good, right?
So good. That's
Like,
interesting. I didn't know you know like sci-fi.
see, and I didn't know you did.
Oh, I
I'm like
love that
totally
stuff. That's what we
on it.
watch all the time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
That's
so
awesome.
I well,
Sci-fi.
this is good. I need to binge things.
Okay, good. That's actually fun. Okay. Aside from you and me, who is your favorite
Yes,
influencer, host, past or present?
that's so hard.
I
It's such
know.
a
I know it is.
I know it is. These are good questions. You must be a professional interviewer.
Just a little.
Just a little, okay. I'm thinking like the person I go to all the time would be Oprah. I feel like everybody would say Oprah. I need to say someone more like, but the thing is, like,
No.
if I really want a balanced perspective, right? Seriously, I'll be like, I should see what Oprah's saying on like this person. But what I love about her is she knows when to talk, when to listen. So even as an interviewer, it's based on personal relationship. You can tell, and then she's got that like she is really humble. For all she's achieved, like she'll be sitting there having a learning moment. Like there's never this like I'm the expert on life.
Mhm.
And then her transparency, like she tells the truth.
Yeah.
But does it with grace.
Yeah. That's so
I
interesting
don't know.
because
I'm saying 1,000 things, but what do you think?
when
Yeah.
Misha and Christina, like, you're the only one who said Oprah. I said Oprah. When Misha and
Oh,
Christina asked me the question, I actually got a little bit of my style and how she was listening and her questions from Oprah. When I was
yeah.
starting off, I would watch her, and she would let that kind of, like, pregnant pause happen to let them think, and I'm like, fill the space with talk," and it'd be like, she'd just look at them, and then they would be like disarmed, and then they would kinda share, and you're like, "Oh my goodness, she allowed space for that." Her questions were great, and I think part of how I host is I'm always learning. Like, one of the I don't say secrets, but for my interviewing, it's there always is something like I wanna get this from them, they're an expert, but I always
Yeah.
interview for me to learn so that if there is something that I didn't know, I have the space to ask that, because that would be interesting for me. Not like, here are this is where we have to go, right? So,
Mhm.
that's so great, like, Oprah's style of interviewing, was transformational for me.
Yeah, it's really changed my approach because I'm newer to this than you are, that's for sure. And so I have watched her a lot and, learning. I agree with you on those pauses, like, and just creating the space. I'm thinking of your conference making space now,
Yeah,
which makes total sense, right? But it's true. And now I do that as well in interviews where I'll just take a second, like, just let them breathe for a minute, see what else they might say.
yeah. It was interesting, I was interviewing at a women's leadership retreat, some pretty, like some, very accomplished leaders, women, and I was interviewing one, and she had a moment, she got quite emotional, and it was really interesting. Another leader sitting down from the stage tried to fill in. Like, it it was she was emotional, so there was no talking. And
Mm.
she, okay, Mark Masry is behind you, and I cannot get enough of this on our live podcast. I'm waving. Oh, there's Misha.
Yeah, I can see her.
I love that. Like, that's what happens.
Oh,
Interruptions happen.
you're so sweet.
I know.
Oh, he's giving you
Oh,
hearts.
oh.
He's
He's
back.
back, totally. Yeah.
Oh, he's back from all of his world travels with the tenors.
That's so fun. I know, it's
I'm
insane, it's
so
insane.
excited.
So,
I had to
it was
get the computer for them.
so what
Yes,
was
go
so
on.
strange, so this leader is having a moment, she's emotional, and another leader down from the stage who's listening is, like, feeling a little awkward, so she starts filling in space, so she literally starts talking, and all of a sudden, I remember going to this woman, "Stop." I actually said to her, "Stop." I said, "Stop. We're taking this moment." And I'll be honest, I was a little nervous because I didn't know how this woman would respond to me. So
Yeah.
we let the woman I was interviewing have some time. And after the session, the woman who I'd said stop, she came up to me and she goes, "Thank you for doing that." She goes, "I've always been in sort of the world of like fill in space, fill in, like if it's awkward, fill in, fill in, fill in." She goes, "But when you said to me stop, and let this moment happen. Something clicked in me where it's like, I need to be that more. I need to be a person that just allows for stuff to happen
Mm.
and to see where that goes. Now, of course, if it was happening for 10 minutes, I would have stopped it, but
Yeah,
it was a
yeah,
moment that was really powerful. So, anyway, that was a real learning because I remember Oprah would do that as well. So, anyway, that's
yes.
good. Okay,
Yeah, it's out of our comfort zone to stop
it
and just
is,
give this,
but we
but
need
it's
to have that more. Yeah, we totally
yeah,
need to have that more. Okay,
yeah,
aside from it's such a plug. The See Hear
yeah.
Love book, Always Know. Lara, what is your favorite book and why?
Okay, this was okay. That was a great book. See Her Love, Always Know, very
Thank
good,
you.
and
Thank you.
continues to be very good. And I love all the voices in it. Um, okay, so this is hard because it's like, do you pick like a do you pick like a fiction romance?
You can do anything. Now remember, I told everybody that they couldn't choose the Bible because at one point everyone's like, "Do we say Bible?" Like people felt like they had to say the Bible. I'm like, "No, it's okay."
Okay, I think the book that always strikes me is one called Surprised by Hope.
Okay.
And this isn't, this is true. So here I am back when I'm doing my undergrad, then I'm doing my master's, I'm doing a thesis, I'm doing this in theology, ethics, community. How do you live as a Christian in this world? How do you develop character? Like, these are huge questions I'm trying to answer in my own life and in my thesis. And I read this book by N.T. Wright called Surprised by Hope. And that book took me off guard because I think I had fallen in. When I came to faith, it was very supernaturally driven. It was very charismatic. I still have those leanings, but I became so heavenly minded. It was almost like not,
Mm.
earthly, heavenly, so heavenly minded, earthly good. Like, it was sort of like that. So here's the Surprise by Hope book by N.T. Wright, who's a historian and a
Mhm.
theologian. And it's talking about how, it's actually this earth that will be resurrected, not just our bodies, right? And so the kingdom of God, where this, earth will be resurrected as Jesus returns, and there's all this amazing, theology. It's called eschatology.
Mhm.
Like, that's your end times focus there. Like, what happens? But actually, that kingdom is among us now.
Yes.
We're meant to be part of the resurrection of this world right now. And so, like, that's the hope. That's the surprise. It's like, you know what? This world is not just wasting away. We're in it to breathe new life into it. And that means we're taking action in social justice.
Mhm.
We're continuing to grow in our character to be more like Jesus, to be the hands and feet of Jesus in the world, and to bring God's, you know, um, reign here on earth. So really, like, bringing heaven to earth. That just changed my thinking. That was it. I was like, you know, um, practical social justice principles, right? That's how you walk out what it means to be Jesus, feeding the hungry, helping those who are downtrodden, bringing freedom to those who are oppressed. Like, very clear for me at that stage, who God is, what he wants us to do as those who are following Jesus, how he wants us to steward our lives, to steward this earth closer to new creation and
Mm.
to what he wanted it to be originally.
Yeah.
So we're light bearers, right, in a dark world, and it really affected me in a good way. Like, it's probably exactly why I partly am where I am now, right? Like, wanting to bring light to those who are struggling in the darkness.
Amazing. And T Wright was key for me too during the time of some of my own theological understanding. I was going to Tyndale University. I was in some transition of my own kind of theology. He really enlightened me. Like the things about he has the whole series about Paul, the Apostle Paul, and going through the letters and totally different perspective on my Baptist upbringing and challenged me to kind of really think deeply about context and
Mm,
about where people were situated in conversations and it was really good. I have always loved NT Wright. He was pretty formative in my own um sort of like faith journey and thankful for him. So that's good, but it's interesting. I haven't read Surprised by Hope, so I'm going to check that out.
I probably have a copy.
Oh, maybe I'll have to borrow it from you. I'll talk to you
Yes,
after the conversation. Amazing.
we have Melinda. I'm so thankful we're doing. We have a lot in common. We
I
have a
know.
lot of.
I this is it's see again, this is why I do these things because it's kind of like we could be in the same building. We have our different shows. We're, executive producers, we're hosts, and we kind of keep going. But then to actually sit down and go, wow, Lara, we love our sci fi, we love our Oprah, and we love our NT Wright. What? It's
It's
amazing.
amazing.
Really cool. We might have to do
God knows.
we might have to do a show on all those combined, some kind of like
Yes.
Star Wars, Oprah, and NT Wright. What is the common thread or something like that? We'll have to do.
Also, force for good.
Nice. It's really good. I like that.
You and
Okay,
I
but
are going to with
time
a
to turn
lot
the
together.
tables. You can ask me anything you want. Well,
Okay.
within reason. I have to say that to everybody.
Okay.
Pretty much anything, and I'll try my best to answer it for you.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Would you say, okay, well, now I want to ask you the same questions, but I don't know.
You can ask me any question you want.
Okay. So, all right. So, what, oh, okay. So, what's your favorite movie?
Oh
I'm
my
going to be
goodness.
similar, but
Really?
yeah, that's so
Okay.
hard.
I know this is so insane. And again, I don't want people to judge me after I say these because there's a couple.
Okay.
So I loved Dances with Wolves. There
Did
was something way back when it came out. I think it's because I didn't know anything about anything about that world. And I think cinematically it was beautiful.
oh, yeah.
I loved Legends of the Fall. I mean, it's a
So,
little spicy, but I had a
yeah.
crush on Brad Pitt. But the storyline, again, the just the storyline of tragedy and then triumph and redemption and forgiveness and restoration. I love that kind of stuff. So Legends of the Fall was one of my favorites.
Mhm.
I it's so weird. I must say I loved and it's so odd and now when I watch it back it's so wrong, but I loved Serendipity with
Yeah.
the reason why I liked oh no, Serendipity, but no, sorry, that's not what that's just my fun show. I loved Sliding Doors. With Gwyneth
Yeah.
Paltrow. And the reason why I like Sliding Doors was I always was fascinated by one choice can change the rest of somebody's life. So for me to actually see a movie try to tackle that by missing the train completely changed her life, or if she'd gotten on the train,
Yeah.
her life went different. So I liked Sliding Doors.
Yeah.
And then I loved Notting Hill.
Yeah.
Just
I
for
love
fun. And I always loved Julia Roberts. I love stories. I love, maybe I'm a little Hallmark fan sometimes, to the chagrin of my husband, especially watching it Christmas in the summer time, Hallmark Christmas movies. But I love that. But I love Star Wars movies too. Like I love, and I know this too, and I love Marvel movies.
oh my goodness.
The
So do I.
Avengers and I know people didn't really love it, but the latest Thor movie, like, love that stuff. So, I'm kinda wide range. That was a big question, but I love all movies because I love action, but I love comedy, and I love stories, but I love, kind of like cinematic, long generational stories, So, there you have it.
That's really
It's
good. I
so
love
much.
it.
It's so
I
much.
love no, I love all your choices too. You and I could just like binge movies. This is amazing.
No, honestly, like, I love all that stuff, so, yeah, we should. Again, I'm
Yeah.
writing notes going, "Oh, maybe we need to do, like, a girlfriend hangout and
Oh,
have, like,
that'd be
a
so
and then just watch
fun.
movies and watch old
Yeah.
Oprah interviews and, yeah,
Oh,
read NT
that's
Wright."
right.
Okay, that's good, that's a good question. Alright,
All right. Good. Okay. Oh, do I get to ask you another
okay,
one or no?
one more.
Come on. This is a good one.
Okay,
This is
okay,
like good insight into you.
okay.
Okay. Other than the Bible, because we
Phew.
have to take it off the table for a second because I don't want you to just say because anyone most of us
Yeah,
will say like
yeah.
what is the one so assuming you always have the Bible with you other than that what is the one thing you can't live without
Oh
this
my
is so good I want to
gosh.
know you more
Oh, no.
what
This
is
is
the one
hard, these are
thing
hard questions. Okay, what's the one thing I can't live without?
yeah
Oh gosh. Oh my goodness.
I even think I know the answer okay like
I think okay, the base real answer, it's just so
I think I
bad,
know
is my iPhone.
okay
Like, I think everybody doesn't wanna say that, but I don't know what I would do without it, to be honest, like, and in the most practical way, this is why. So, I have not memorized any phone numbers of any of my family, my husband, our kids. It's bad. Chris has actually said, "If anything happened to you, you would not know how to call us because you don't have any numbers memorized. Everything's in your phone. And I now have to, honestly, this next couple of weeks, I have to start memorizing numbers because Chris is like, you cannot go out of the house and not know phone numbers just in case. Okay. So on that front, my iPhone would be I couldn't live without for that reason. But
Mhm.
also I do a lot of my work through my iPhone
Yes.
and my social media posts and everything else. So that would be one. Oh my goodness. Lara, that's a good question. Because there's a part of my brain that says I should say certain things, but is it the
Yes.
truth?
Yes.
Like, could I not live without, my husband Chris and he needs to be with me? But, you know, yes, but also we also have a great community where we have space to hang out with
Yeah.
my girlfriends, other people. So that, my shoes,
Yeah, great
my
too.
collection of shoes.
Yeah, like I should have just said material things, but
Okay.
not in a, you know
My
what I mean?
shoes
That's
and my clothes. I mean, here's the thing. If I wasn't in the work I was doing, I was actually thinking about going into fashion. I went to the fashion and merchandising
right.
school in Toronto and did really well there, and a lot of my teachers were like, "You should go into this. You're merchandising." I was designing clothes. I was merchandising at back then it was Eaton Centre, but now it's the big, mall in Toronto downtown. Um, and so fashion's big for me. I love shoes and clothes. I love fits, colors, styles. So there's that part. It sounds a little materialistic, but I do love that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're really visually gifted, so you really are. Like your set even, it's like
And
I'm
I
sure
love
you just
set design. I love design too. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's a gift from God. Like it's visual creativity. So I think it's you've got to celebrate it. I
yeah,
want you to come to my house and design
I would totally love
everything.
that. And actually, and again, too, if I wasn't in fashion now as I've gotten older, I would love to explore interior design too one day. I love it. I think it's because what the pandemic did, Lara, was it created where I was always out of the house, but then because I was in, I was like, why don't I make my home a space that we love to be in even in a pandemic? And
Yes.
that kind of sparked something in me that was very creative to make my home that and then just had fun with it. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so maybe some of that. I hope that answers your question. It wasn't really like, my prayer diary or journal, which I do have. I
No,
mean, it wasn't very spiritual, but
I love it. I
okay.
love it. Great. It was perfect. I just wanted to get to know you more.
Oh,
And I should have said like I could say something, what's the one meaningful like emotional thing you can't live without. And you might have said like love. I don't know,
yeah,
but
that's true. Love and laughter, maybe. I do love laughter and love. So
I
there you
know
go.
your relationships really matter to you. So, but I mean, if somebody said like I can't live without my water bottle, it means they're always needing water. I mean, these are real things. We're humans.
I know, and I hated that I said iPhone. That's so bad. But anyway, it was everybody who's gonna write me to complain about that is because my important phone numbers are in there. That's why.
That's
That's
right.
important for my own safety. There we go. All right, Laura,
Yes.
let's go to getting to know you more. We
Okay.
could literally talk for 5 hours. So
No, no, I got it.
okay,
Yes,
but here
you
we go.
totally. Yes.
Um, this is good because we talked earlier of what I love about you about just family and priority. But let's start with being a mom. What
Mhm.
do you love most about it? Let's start with
Mhm.
that. And then, second, will be what's the most challenging thing about it? I have a lot of moms that listen and engage with us on See Her Love, young moms, moms where the kids are out of the house. But I'm always so interested to hear perspective. So, what do you love most about being a mom?
Okay. So, wow, that's a great question. It's a hard question. Like I like so really. I'll be honest. Like I'm just gonna start with the stuff that's like every day. I love like the cuddles
Hmm.
and the hugs and the affection. Like I think probably one of my love languages is touch.
Hmm.
So I like that stuff a lot. Um, and spending quality time with them, laughing, those moments of laughter. So it's like the fun and the joy of having kids. And but then maybe the biggest thing that like I will marvel at one day when I'm old and gray and looking back on my life, is that I got to see these two young little souls grow up, and God was on a journey with them while they grew. Like
Mm.
I get to witness um, the growth of their hearts and their minds and their desires and their gifts, and um, and their spiritual life with God. And you know, when it's good, and you know, when it's strong, and when it's struggling, and all those layers. And so I often feel just like surprised and humbled as I get to watch them
Mm.
develop. Like I just feel like, God, I can't believe I get to see this. I think it's amazing. And one of the biggest highlights is when I see them describing or just like owning their own relationship with God, aware of His presence, aware of what's happening in their hearts, and then I'm always surprised in those moments, like, oh, God loves them more than I do. Even, oh my goodness, God is even closer to them than I am. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, He's walking with them. It's interesting because you know, both Jeff and I, my husband and I, we didn't quite intend to try to have kids, and you know, we'd been married for 5 years, and I was really open-handed about it. I would say, like, it's fine if I end up adopting. Like, I don't need to have
Mm-hmm.
my own kids. I'm not even trying. Like, I wasn't. We weren't even like. We just.
Mm.
That's the reality. And I think it came down to like insecurity, like not knowing what kind of parent I would be. And actually, I think that was the same for Jeff. Really wondering, like, what kind of family would we
Mm.
be? And I don't know. We're already a lot to handle for ourselves, and God's got His handful, hands full with that. This like fear and trembling that, you know, and I'm so thankful to God that He sort of intervened and made it happen so that we did get pregnant, because you know, we're 5 years into our marriage. I'm certainly not focused on that at all, and I'm not focused on career either. Like I'm just sort
Mm.
of focused on doing ministry at that point, working in a church. And um but the crazy thing is, it's like then your kids, you know, you start to raise your kids and you're like, they're very loved, they're very whole, they're very happy, we're doing a good job.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one counselor saying, listen, Lara, nobody leaves family life unscathed. Like, don't kid yourself.
Right.
You have baggage. And so you're not going to be perfect, right? But do your children feel loved, right? Because I continued
Mm.
to carry this burden. Would I be a good enough parent? And again, it's this humbling, surprising journey. Like God's like, yeah, Lara, you know, they're doing well. They are healthy. They're functioning. They're strong. They're, you know, maybe too strong.
Mm.
They're very confident.
That's
You know, they
good.
know what they want. They know who they are. It's like, so that's a humbling journey. It's a humbling
Yeah.
process. That's what such a long, but I think it's like the surprise of the joy and the well-being and these little souls that I just see blossoming.
Yeah.
That's what I love most.
Amazing. It's beautiful. I love that.
Mm.
I think it's a reminder for all of us that we will parenting, we're not going to be perfect. We just said that to our kids. Chris was really great. He said to our teenagers, like, hey guys, just a PS. This is the first time that we've been parents to teenagers. So give us a break. And
That's
they were like
so good.
this. What? We're like, it's the first time we've ever been parents to teenagers. Like,
Wow.
we're learning the best we can. And it was really interesting, their response. They kind of were like taken aback and they're like, right, you've never done this before, have you? We're like, no. So you're asking us to give you guys breaks, you give us a break. We show
Yeah.
you guys grace, you show your parents some grace because we don't have all the answers. We're doing the best we can. And that was really cool because our kids actually were like, oh, right. Like it was kind of like a light bulb moment for them where they were like, and our kids are 15 and 18. And they were like, that's a good point. Like they actually were like, that's a good point. And it was actually really awesome because I was like, yes, now you know that, you're looking at us as parents and we're doing all this, but we're just trying the best that we can. So I really
Hmm.
love that. I mean, we're all going to have our problems and issues, but I love that you said, you could do all the things, but your children feel loved. And I think that's the key. It's awesome. Uh,
I like what you said, and can I please borrow it with my
yeah, no,
teenager?
please borrow because we've told that to a couple of friends and they're like, we've never thought
So,
of that. We're like,
oh,
it's real. We've never done this
yeah,
before, so give us a break. And the way even Chris said, like, "Give us a break," and they were like, what do you mean give the parents a break?" We're like, "Yeah, give us a break, you guys. Like, you're always like, don't be so hard on us, but expecting stuff. It's like the same as us." So anyway, it was really good, turning the tables a little bit. Um,
yep.
Most challenging thing about being a mom?
Yeah, I mean, because
I
you're
know. I know.
you're yourself. Um, it's interesting. Like I think it's a couple things. I remember the realization that I had to have that my faith journey is not necessarily theirs,
Mhm.
right? So these experiences I've had with God that transformed me and impacted me so deeply, they haven't had, right? Because they didn't live my life. They aren't who I am. And so I would take for granted and say, like, well, God's like this. And then I had to realize, no, they don't. Well, why would they? Because they haven't
Right.
journeyed that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah.
So how do they know if God's faithful
Yeah.
yet? I don't know. That realization and then starting to hand that over to God and say, okay, God, so how can I model, right, to them more what it looks like to be in relationship with you? How can I help them own their faith? I think another one is like, it's amazing because I was so afraid to have kids. Then I know, like I can tell by the fruits that I've been a good parent, like not perfect at all, right, but good. But you still mess up. And so those times you mess up, really realizing, oh my goodness, my baggage just came out. Or, right, like I just projected onto them. And
Hmm.
how do I strike the fine balance? I didn't mean to do that. And how do I pull that back? Um, but what's cool is, I remember seeing Lisa and John Bevere say this when their kids were young and they were learning how to parent too. Um, they would apologize to their kids when they made a mistake. And so, like, I do that now. It's
It's
like, you
good.
know what? I messed up and I'm sorry. And I've asked God for forgiveness because I would tend to have done that, right?
Mhm.
And here's how I can not do this in the future. And you're careful, like why you say you did something, right? Especially if you're projecting. So you got to be,
Mhm.
you always have to self edit with them. But, and it's amazing. It's been healing when I've done that. They've, I think, understood exactly what you said. Like we're humans, we're on this
Mhm.
journey too as parents. And we really like love you unconditionally and with our whole beings. But we are not perfect. We are fallen. And I say that to my boys. Every one of us is a fallen, sinful human. So I'm going to mess up too. But,
It's good.
and then we pray together too. I'll pray with them if I feel like that's, they'll see my repentant heart in that prayer, even, right? God, what can we do differently? What can I do differently next time? And so
That's
they do
so
the same
good.
thing when we mess up.
Yeah,
They'll apologize. Then they'll say, can you pray with me to God? Can we pray together? So,
that's good. I think that kind of like leads into the next question just about I get a lot of questions from moms about, how do you share your faith with your kids, young to teenagers, in a real meaningful way that's not manipulative or shame guilt based.
right.
And so you kind of said that, but maybe you can just expand a little bit on that just because I think, you know, I have a lot of moms who are like, "How do we do that well?" Because it can be awkward with a teenager, but it also you don't want it to project your own stuff on them because they're becoming adults and they've got, their own lives, but they're still kids. What would you say?
That's a great question. It's very hard. And I think it's a question we all wrestle with regularly. I think the fact that you're wrestling with the question
Mhm.
is a signal that you're a good parent and that you're trying
Mm.
really hard, right?
Yeah.
So I think one of the things that started to really hit me as I saw my boys. So, you take them to church and they go to Sunday school and, as they're in grade school, that kind of age, like say, it's so easy when they're 2 to get them to sing the songs and then, they're 5 and you're like, trust Jesus. And you're
Mhm.
doing all these things with them. And I grew up not going to those kinds of programs. But so then my kids are going to them and I'm like, oh, this will be enough. I'm not laughing. I'm laughing at
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
Oh, this will do it. No. But then they start to think for themselves and they're like 8, 9, 10, and you're like, well, God always answers prayers. Well, he's answered my prayer. Uh-oh. Like you're like, whoa. And I think it's modeling. So I think it's a bunch of things. I think it's that moment of realization they're not going to inherit our faith. Just bringing them to church does not do it, right? But those things help. It helps when you're modeling faith and it
Mhm.
helps bringing them to church. But I realized that my boys are watching me in between the lines. They're watching me in between the moments when I think no one is watching me.
Mhm.
And so it's so interesting because I can say to them, you know what, you just have to have faith in God. But if I don't show them that I'm having faith in God when there's a crisis happening around me, and I'm not saying it would be perfect because I might be crying and saying, maybe this loved one is, sick, so something's wrong, right? Just for an example. And maybe I'm crying, but I say to them, but God is still with us in this. So I'm not perfect. I'm not like so
Mhm.
resilient because I'm still in pain. But in between the moments, I think sometimes too we have all these sayings about God or about Jesus, or where it's like rhetoric, but they want to see like, what do we do when a person in the store is rude to us? What do we do?
Mhm.
Do we turn the other cheek? Do we get in a huff? Do we walk out and say to them, you know what? They're struggling, and I think we should think about praying for them. I think we should talk about, should we pray for them? And on a good day, I do that, and on a bad day, I don't. I walk out in a huff, so I'm not perfect.
Mhm.
But I started to recognize my kids are watching between the lines. They're not just watching what I say. They're not just watching what I do when others are around. They're watching me in those moments. Am I sighing? Am I agitated? Like, and so that's a big one. I know when it's like reading the Bible, right? So what's happening in between those moments as you're reading about what Jesus did?
Yeah.
What's really happening with the people? So just being aware that they're going to model you, and you can say it all you want. You can send them to Sunday school, but if you're not living it, it starts to show itself. And but I also think here's a cool thing to do, because you could even live it wonderfully, right? And they still may not walk that way, because let's remember, it's a choice of the heart.
Right.
Like every human being has this autonomous choice. We can't change that. So they can choose to know God or not. Their hearts can be hard or soft. They can, like, that is the human experience. Are we going to repent and clean our hearts? Are we going to let our hearts get hardened and not let God in? And our kids actually are just these human beings too on that. So
Right.
I think two other things quickly is just praying for them, praying over them, praying when they don't know, like in this supernatural spiritual realm, like claiming your kids that they will serve God, and then showing them. So sometimes in the mornings, actually almost all the time, I'm praying with them on the way to school. What's your day hold? Okay, let's pray over the test. Let's pray over the friends. Let's pray over the thing.
Right.
Let's pray over the tryouts. And then when they report later, like, you help them see the connections. Oh,
Yeah.
see how God helped you there? Did you see that? Oh, so we almost have to train them to see it too. There's so much here. We got to write a book,
I know, it's
Melinda.
so good. There's so much. There's so much.
Ah,
Um, and my light just literally fell
okay.
off, so now that's fine. I was like, my little, like, light just out there. Sorry about that. No, that's really good. I'm writing lots of notes and points, so this is really great.
Oh.
Um, Lara, is it hard being a mom, wife, and a career woman? How are you managing, or not? Any tips? So maybe 2 tips. But yeah, I think this is an honest question. I think it's the same for me. It's the same for a number of women who are listening, about just trying to prioritize and do it all.
Hmm.
Um, and how are you doing it, or the struggles in all of those sort of titles: mom, wife,
Hmm.
career woman.
I think it's been really hard for me to adjust. So
Mhm.
prior to coming, into the role at 100 Huntley Street, I was freelance and also self-employed in a, small production company. We're doing kids content, and I could be at every school event. I could volunteer. I could do all these different things and would work around it, right? And then of course COVID, right, makes you work 12 hours a day. You don't. COVID was a strange season, and
Yeah.
um, so I think the balance has been hard. I carry this feeling of like I should be there for everything, but then I'm also like, am I stewarding the gifts God has given me if I just choose this again? To not put myself out there and share the gospel, and share the theological training I have in ministry. So something I try to do is really focus on them first. So and that's maybe a fault. I don't know, right? I focus on them before my friendships. I focus on them before, uh, you know, just about everything else. So it's like, my relationship with God, my relationship with my husband, and my boys, and trying to put work second as much as I can. Something that's interesting though, like when I struggle with the guilt and I say, I'm working a lot, my boys will say you're doing something that changes the world. Like my
Mm.
sons, Jeff will say, like, you can't step away. You have to stay doing this. Um, do what God's called you to do right now. Like, they're so proud of the bravery of it, because they know that I'm sort of a stay-at-home mom personality.
Mhm.
And, like, that's kind of who I am. And but I'm answering God's call and doing it for such a time as this, like a lot of us, right?
Mhm.
Like I felt called in COVID. That's the reality. And So I try to grab quality time with them everywhere. They're really flexible because they support what I'm doing. They love to come to the studio. They watch social media. They're commenting on everything.
It's awesome.
So having those moments, like if I have to work at an odd time, then I spend other time with them. So they understand the flex time of my life. And my boss, like my colleagues, all try to accommodate it. But with media, it's pressing. It's different.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just really pressing. So the tips are like grab quality time wherever you
Hmm.
can,
Mm-hmm.
and hope. And then I think secondly, which really should come first, is be in agreement as a household that what you're doing
It's good.
is right.
Mm-hmm.
We all agree and support it. There's unity. I can't, even when I have mom guilt, I'm like, well, there's unity on what I'm doing.
It's
They
good.
all believe in this. Yeah.
That's really good. Agreement and unity in the household.
Yeah.
That's really,
That's it. For
really
me, that's
because
just my,
yeah, and I think that's really like wise because I think a lot of times with busy households, it's like two separate lives are happening and you kind of come together and surprise, surprise, it never sometimes it doesn't work because you've been so
yeah,
separate. You're trying to like, okay, now we're together, now we got to make this work and we haven't connected. So we're all on different levels, stages, experiences. And I love
yeah,
that. Chris and I are trying to like have more kind of date times or take long walks together just to connect because with him and I, our schedules are so busy. He does a lot of mountain biking with his friends. I have a lot of my girlfriends. We have our kids. And so if we don't carve out that time, it's not going to happen. And so
yeah.
that's really, really great. And I think that's really good. I think, grab quality time when you can and really be intentional about it and be present is really key. And I think that's
Mhm.
how
Yeah,
you're gonna be mom, wife, career woman effectively in all areas. Because sometimes what happens is you can be a great mom, but then career and wife kind of like go, and then other times it's like you're being super wife, but then mom and career woman. And then career woman, you're on top of the world, but wife and mom. So, and I know in seasons there's gonna be more percentage being put into one because that's gonna happen.
yeah.
But I think those are really, really good tips, Lara. Amazing.
That's good.
TV host of national Christian talk show, 100 Huntley Street. Was this always a goal or dream of yours? And if not, what would you have wanted to become or be?
It's a good question. Can I ask you a question? Okay, well, I when I was 7 or 8, I wanted to be a marine biologist. But the thing is, Melinda, I'm so bad at science. I couldn't even pass it in high school.
Oh, really?
And
Did
I
you
cared
watch?
about
Did you ever watch Jacques Cousteau?
no,
Oh,
but
he
I
was like the guy in the water and stuff that I used to watch
yeah,
when I was young. But that probably was like really old. But yeah. Anyway,
right.
that's
So
cool.
I know. Yeah, so that's cool. But this is a neat thing. So it's interesting. In my house, we didn't really have a lot of Bibles around. There was some faith coming from my mom. That's pretty cool. And she'd tell me about Jesus. But so this is neat. And I always see this as a marker.
Okay.
When I was about 8 years old, this is a good story too. I was so imaginative and I was always in my backyard by myself, just doing all kinds of just like stories, imaginative. And so I go to my barbecue and I can just feel God's presence from a young age. Like I
Mhm.
feel this, there's a creator. So I start like throwing up the ashes of a barbecue, trying to conjure up God. Like this is what I was like,
No.
crazy kid. Yeah. And I'm like, and I'm like, will he come? Will he come? Well, I was like, no. So then it's crazy. And I do this whole like a ceremony really. And I'm only trying to get God. And I come back like the next day, like it's within days. Like the next time I'm in the backyard, I go back there, and sitting on a bench is a little Gideon's New Testament, and Melinda, I don't even know what it is. Like I don't know that's a Bible. Like I'm so unchurched, like I don't know. So I open this little red book, and I see the red words of Jesus.
Wow.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
Like I'm
yeah.
just. But then I start to recognize it's Jesus speaking, and my mom's talked about Jesus, right?
Mhm.
And there's this impression in my heart, this is the most important thing you will ever do. This is what you need to know.
No.
Yeah. And then that feeling like God is always watching me and with me, right? I start
Mhm.
praying more, like this starts building out throughout my life. And by the time I'm like in Bible college, right, I'm starting to fall in love with theology and ministry and understanding the Bible. And by the time I do my master's, it's biblical hermeneutics. And I'm like, that's interpretation. How do you interpret the Bible?
Wow.
This thing is carrying and staying with me. And, and, I go into church ministry and I'm doing all these things. And even the production company, it's funny. I'm like doing kids content and I'm trying to, I'm laughing because I'm trying to teach the golden rule. Like, I'm trying to teach what would Jesus do? And like, it's all secular media and I'm trying to get government grants. But so in some ways, then I did a women's zine, and I was doing lots of writing for that just to inspire women, like
Mhm.
theology, Bible teachings and stuff. And so in some ways, my goodness, I also wrote a chick lit novel, never published it. And guess what it's on? It's on
What?
the story of a woman who is a talk show host who's edgy, like Chelsea Handler, like
Yeah.
really edgy, comes to faith and starts serving God and like follows Jesus and becomes an inspirational talk show host.
Are
I
you
wrote that.
serious?
No, I'm not. I am serious. 10 years ago. It's like in a crate. I let
Wow.
one person read it. But the point is, no, I'm not surprised I'm in ministry or sharing about the Bible, right? Or teaching about Jesus. That's a seed that was sown.
Mhm.
The fact that the Lord had such humor and wove this story like this, and now I am where I am, I mean, I can't even. Yeah, it's like it is something you steward, like you said.
Mhm.
I'm just stewarding it. I answered the call, and you're right. I'm close to God. I feel Jesus a lot. I feel the presence of God. I have a lot of neat stories about Him. I'm so afraid to say no to God too. I've been Jonah. Like I've said no and hid myself from the world. Like so, I'm amazed where He's taken us, and I think out of humility and having open hands, as you said, in stewarding, I think those are the people He can use in these
Mhm.
kinds of fields the most. And I'm just like, as usual, He's surprising me. That's probably the theme throughout this interview.
Yeah.
God is always surprising me.
Yeah.
So
I still am stuck, sorry, on the conjuring with the ashes. I'm, like, literally seeing this visual of you throwing these things in the air.
literally what was happening. And it was so messy. And, it's like,
It's so
that's,
there was a sense and presence always for you of God, of something, like, bigger, the presence of God in your life. It's
oh,
amazing.
yeah. That's even looking back. And I always want to encourage people to try to look at the dots if they can. That's one good thing about the way I think. I
Mm.
see, I see patterns. I see everybody's different, right? But I always see connections. And I always, I hope that for others because, even as a kid, I used to go to downtown Toronto and walk into churches. Like I was like 10 years old and just wanted to go to church. I just wanted and now I look back and I see all these connections. I'm like, oh, that's God working in my soft little heart who's
Yeah.
just like
See, I
wants
love
to.
that because I know that sort of evangelical theology is you say the prayer and now you're in. Okay,
Right.
that's a whole other conversation. But I find that there are many people who are in the connecting dots phase right now that are
Mm,
like there's something happening or they're actually very close with Jesus, they just don't know it. They know there's something, they just don't know the name of it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
and I think
Like
there's
it's
a
like
lot of people with the connecting dots right now. They're not there yet or don't wanna see it or can't see it,
or
but
maybe they're even like connecting mainstream Christian religion with the dots. And so they're like, I can't look at this. But
yeah,
it's just Jesus calling them. And
right,
it's not connected to religion. It's
yeah,
like,
and I think
that's such
that's the
a
work
thing.
of content creators like us. Like, I think, once I realized that it is not on me to ensure everybody's salvation, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
As in and I use these, like, evangelical terms like that. What I mean is, it puts a lot of pressure off me that I do what God has called me to do, and the rest He's working it out with other people, other experiences of people, and people are gonna choose or not choose, right? And I think as I've gotten older and in this work, I realize I don't have to have that pressure. I don't have to have that on me. I'm faithful to what God has called me to do. Um, sharing the story of God in partnership with us, His love for all people, and then allowing God's Spirit to work and move in people in their timing and in their space and where they're at, and then praying that other people along the journey will speak love and into them as well. We're all part of this. So that's been really good because when I was growing up, there always seemed to be almost like a manic way of like, we got to do it, blah, 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 blah," and then you'd put pressure on you and you'd feel anxious and were you doing enough and is it enough? And then I really realized over the years of this work I'm doing, it's like, no. I'm in partnership with God. God's spirit leads. He's going to do a lot of the work. You just do yours.
Mm,
And whenever there's opportunity, you speak, you share love, you give. So
mhm.
that's been really good.
That's so good. That's good for me to hear.
Yeah.
It's just good. It's refreshing and it's the truth because God is using us as vessels. Like we're not. It's not on us to
True.
bring whatever what you can say like the salvation or healing or anything. Like we're
Anything.
just sharing the truth about who he is and how much he loves people, and then that's. But we can as content creators as well in the Christian realm, we often see ourselves as ministers too, and so we start carrying it.
Yeah.
I don't like how many Christians from a young age, like you're saying, are carrying it. Like I should be doing this more. This should be. I should see these results more. Like no, we're sowing seed
I
everywhere, and
know.
it's God's, not ours.
Yeah. And you know what? You look at Jesus' life, which is so inspiring. Like,
Yeah,
he did his work, and then it says some people believed and some people didn't. And then he left that town and he had a nap. And then he
I
went
love
back to
that.
the town and he ministered and he spoke. And some people came to know him, others didn't. But it wasn't like he was
Yeah,
running after them and freaking out and trying to get them to follow him. It was like, some of you will hear and get it, and some of you won't. So I'm going to speak the
that's
truth. I'm going to demonstrate, God's power and love, and you can take it or not. Like, I'm not gonna manipulate you or force you because that isn't love. Like, relationship isn't being forced to love somebody is not a relationship. And I think I got that too, and I read more about Jesus, it's like, he's awesome. Like, so many times it's like and then he napped, then he went away to pray, then he napped, and then he hung
yeah,
out and was having dinners with his friends and weddings and parties and, like, everything. The more I get to know him, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you're so cool." Like, you're really an interesting person,
yeah,
God, you know what I mean? And if you look at
yes,
his pace, it's not, insane in the way that sometimes I get about being anxious and being it's kinda like he went to where he needed to be, retreated, recouped, rested, came back. He healed
yeah,
some, and then he didn't heal some, Like,
yeah,
it was just like there was no kind of template of how to do it. It was just sort of in his life and way he just responded or did. Anyway, that's another thing. I'm just really fascinated. So that's given me a lot of more of
mhm,
how to have rhythm of life in that way, especially being in Christian content creation. We can get
yes,
to that place sometimes, and I don't think that's really healthy. And,
mhm.
following Jesus is kind of not the way he lived his life. You know what I mean?
It's so true. You're right. It's so insightful. It's it's kind of balm to my soul listening to you. You're so right because we're working really hard too. Like we're all really passionate about what we're doing. We know the difference Jesus makes. We know we could reach people through every line of social media and through broadcast, and so we're so passionate to share the message, but we do lose in the process that pacing most of the time, right? Of
Mhm.
how was Jesus living? And as
Yeah.
you're talking, like you should. That's the next SHL book.
I know. I think that would be
That's
it'd
a
be
good
great to have
title.
people share the ways that they're like, in this kind of
Yes.
way of Jesus, how they've been doing. I know, that's really
Yeah.
cool. That's actually not a bad idea, Lara. Look
It's
at us.
such a
Now we're
good
coming up with
title.
ideas on this conversation.
Yes.
It's so good.
I'll read that
I
book.
know, it's so good. I wanna just skip down to the final one because I do have a blessing for you at the end, but
Yes.
you are definitely an encourager, and I just
Mm.
I've ended every episode of this series with each person encouraging someone. I think for you, like a mom or a woman who's trying to do it all and seems to be failing miserably or just overwhelmed or but just to that mom or woman who's just like, I need some really good encouragement today. Lara, what would you say to her?
Oh, I would say that you are not alone, that so many women are feeling this. And the feeling that you might have that you're juggling so many things, and it's, motherhood, career, friendship, the layers of what a woman carries, her well being. but everything's falling because there's so many things. So you're not even catching the balls.
Mhm.
And, I just want to encourage you right now that God wants to carry your burdens, that we're not meant to carry so much. These are standards the world puts on us. These are standards maybe unhealthy relationships have put on us, and sometimes what we're putting on ourselves. But they are not what God wants for us. And Melinda and I are talking. We're talking about resting in God, being like Jesus. And I think for that woman who's struggling to do it all, taking that moment to go for a walk, and even if all you can say is Jesus help me, just take that moment to yourself, get outside the door, go be with your creator. I tried to conjure him up with the ashes, but conjure up your creator now with a prayer. God help me, God help me see me how you see me, that first I'm just a child of God. All these labels and these expectations that people have put on you are not what God has put on you. And stay focused on the things God has called you to, and go narrow and deep on those. The biggest thing we can do, though, is stay connected to our creator. And the minute that we see ourselves not able to do that because there's so much pressure from everything else, we have to step away. And it's like putting on your air mask first, right, on a plane, then you can help others.
Mm.
So it's time alone with God. This is what I think. It's time praying, whatever that messy prayer looks like, or eloquent prayer. Get away and do some things like that. I think, know that God just wants to use you as a vessel, that the responsibility is his, not yours. And, um, you know, and just make sure that you care for yourself, and you put others around you who will care for you and remind you. Melinda, you often have said to me, Lara, go have some fun. Let's do more girlfriend stuff. We get those people around us. So we matter, and don't get lost in the labels, because first, you are a beautiful creative being. God has plans for your life that you cannot imagine. Psalm 139, he knit you together in your mother's womb long before you became a career woman or a parent or a wife or a friend. God knit you together to be just you with him, and to go forward in the ways he's called you.
Amazing. It's so
Wow.
beautiful, Laura. Thank you so much. I know that that encouragement is and has really encouraged women and mothers who are listening and watching now. So thank you. And I want to finish off with just a blessing encouragement to you. So one of the things that I do in this whole series is I look for some prayers or blessings for each person. And so I was going online last night, and there's a whole bunch, but this one really was like, I think this is the one for you. And I found it on the Better Mom website. And it's really for when you are tired and exhausted, Lara, and there's just a lot of leadership responsibility on you. This is the blessing I want to say to you. So I'm going to send it to you so that when you are feeling overwhelmed, and listen, we know that as being the responsibility and weight of it, being on national TV, sharing about Jesus, and like we talked about, holding this space for people across Canada. You're leading a big team. There's a lot of responsibility on you. And so I know that there are moments of tiredness and exhaustion and being overwhelmed. So I want to just pray this blessing over you. And so you can just receive it. And I will send this to you so that when you are feeling exhausted, this is for you. So, dear Lord, my friend Lara is exhausted, and she doesn't know where her strength is going to come from. Her body, mind, and soul need your touch. Lara may be in a situation where the help she needs seems unattainable for her right now. And so, Jesus, I ask that you would open the doors that need to be opened for her. If her health is an issue, please direct her to a place and method of restoration. And for all the issues weighing down her mind and her spirit, Lord, provide sweet release. Bring godly counsel, wise friends, and caring embraces to help Lara shoulder her load. And Holy Spirit, let my friend know that you are near, and use your people as agents of your love in her life. I pray for rest in Lara's life. Lord, let her sleep be sound. And though the hours may be few, please multiply the rest as she gets to carry her through the day. And I pray for Lara's nutrition. Please provide for her physical needs. Help her to know what nutrients her body needs. And please allow her to receive those things so she is strengthened to carry on. And I pray for my friend's family. Lord, you know how emotionally involved we moms are in our children's and husbands' lives. She carries all of their burdens, joys, and stresses in addition to her own. And so, Jesus, help Lara lay each one of those cares at your feet and give her faith to release them to you daily. Show her that you are God, all powerful, all knowing, and always loving. Help Lara to trust you and let go of the anxieties she battles. And most importantly, I pray for my friend's relationship with you. Give Lara moments today in which she can open her Bible, direct her to a passage of scripture that encourages her heart. Speak your promises to her through your precious word, and use the season of weariness and stress to create something eternally beautiful in her soul. Lara, I echo Paul's prayer for the Ephesian believers for you, and I pray that the Lord may grant you to be strengthened with power through his Spirit in your inner being, so that Christ may dwell in your heart through faith, that you, being rooted and grounded in love, may have strength to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, that, Lara, you may be filled with all the fullness of God. And now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think, according to the power at work within us, to him be glory in the church and in Christ Jesus through the generations, forever and ever. Amen. Lara, this prayer and blessing for you through Jesus. Amen.
Oh man, no, Melinda. What a blessing. I feel God's presence in this room. And, I'm going to read that prayer over me. I feel like you have a microphone in my prayer closet
Hmm.
and you heard the things I need. And, God has heard them. And I'm so thankful. Thank you. That's such a gift. And amazing what you prayed. I have to tell you, the Lord is communicating a lot through you,
It's
Melinda.
good. Because there was a lot of prayers, and when I read that one, I was like, "This is the one." I there's and for certain things. So, I'll email it to you after,
Yes.
this episode. But, Laura, it was a pleasure. It really was a beautiful pleasure to spend this time with you, to just hear more. There's so much more, so we might have to do a part 2. But what a
Yes.
pleasure to end this series about me getting to know my colleagues with you. This was so beautiful for me, and the beautiful things you said earlier. I'm grateful to work shoulder to shoulder, literally, in the building with you, and know that even after our talk, I feel more committed to praying for you, um, in this work, because I know how much of the emotional, spiritual, physical, toll it can take. But know that I'm committed to praying for you, and I'm excited to see where God is going to take you, with 100 Huntley Street, with your team, with your family, with more of your creative outlets of writing. So I'm very, very grateful for you here with Crossroads Media, with 100 Huntley Street, and your support for See Her Love. So, so thank you, so much for this time.
Well, Melinda, this has been such a gift to me. It has been like being on a mini vacation for my soul. I physically feel more rested and like just full of hope. You have filled me up and encouraged me in ways that like God literally knew that I needed. And I'm so thankful that we're together in this journey, that we're ministering together, that God has called us right now for
Mm,
this season of the world. Like we are literally,
yeah.
you're right, shoulder to shoulder. And I I've been so blessed by this conversation. I hope we have many more. Um, and I'm so excited about what God has in store for us. I see so much beautiful synergy too. I see the Lord has He's lining up people that are similar in heart and interest and intent, and it's so neat to
Mm,
hear what you have to say. But I have to tell you, like you've blessed me like very very significantly, to the point where I'm definitely going to listen to some of these beautiful things you've said and again and meditate on them and receive them.
mm.
It's just it's been such a gift to my heart.
Thank you, Laura. And to our viewers and listeners, I really pray and trust and hope that you were encouraged and inspire what Lara Watson had to say. Make sure that you check out her incredible hosting skills on 100 Huntley Street, and they've got a great podcast as well. And know this, I know that I always sign off on this, but if you are a busy mom and exhausted, not even just a mom, but you are working hard and you're overwhelmed, so much that Lara said about finding those spaces, to be with God, quality time, kindness towards yourself. really choosing intentionally to be with Jesus. I really encourage you to listen again to the conversation a few times and write down some notes that we said. And if you've missed any of our previous podcasts from the series of Melinda Gets to Know Her Colleagues, please make sure that you check those out as well. And always know, in this life, you are not alone, and you are seen, you are heard, and you are deeply loved by God. Thank you so much for joining us.